Hello, Lamer Gamers. This is Simply Travis and
Rowdy 5000.
And we've recently left our lives as mercenaries to become teachers for a ragtag group of nobles and merchants, cosplaying as Harry Potter rejects, but realized that life was actually easier as a mercenary. Instead of roaming the school, talking to students, and listening to their pointless concerns that don't matter because whatever I say will not change what they think or do, we're going to war. And our first target is episode 10 of the Lamer Gamers podcast. So, today we're going to talk about the games we've been playing, such as Fire Emblem Three Houses. I visited an escape room, which was pretty nifty.
Weird.
And Rowdy made me play something. Minecraft.
And he liked it.
I didn't hate it. Then we'll dive into gaming topics that are hot right now, such as a surprise release on the Switch. Loot boxes have finally opened up a can of worms.
Travis, you can't call them loot boxes anymore. They're called surprise mechanics.
Whatever.
Surprise mechanics.
Gotcha. Sure. Someone's getting paid extra by EA. The Switch Lite and what it means for our future Nintendo games, updates on Outer Worlds, and our rumors section, fake news. Now, we'll end on a more serious note with a discussion on video games and violence, along with the latest news on Walmart banning all violent video game ads and demos in their store. So, guess it's time to hit that fancy music.
Yeah, we'll go ahead and do that.
Alright, so, Rowdy, what you been playing lately?
I have non-stop been playing Emblema de Fuego Tres Casas. I cannot stop playing Fire Emblem. I'm 45 hours in right now. 45. People are saying that their average is 70 hours for their first playthrough. Now, I didn't take into consideration some of these people might be the diehard fans who turn off battle animations and things like that. I don't. I like to watch that stuff. But it's probably going to make my game a lot longer.
And yeah, I've been seeing people like on the Game Witness Discord, they're like, I played through in 50 hours. And I'm just thinking, you weren't watching the battle animations.
Yeah, maybe that's more like it.
Or you know what you were doing, because I have no freaking clue right now.
Well, see, that's the thing about this game. I absolutely love it. It's amazing. But I did not read all the tutorials. I cannot stress enough to anybody listening, you've got to read the tutorials. I didn't know till about 25 hours into the game, you could zoom all the way in and free roam with your character throughout their movement area. I mean, obviously, it's not going to let you go any farther than where you can't go, like you would normally move in the grid position. I didn't know you could do this. I saw the zoom in tutorial, and I was like, oh, I know, I can zoom in. I got it.
What is the purpose of free roam? Though you were talking about earlier before the show, there was like some good reasons for it, like your horses can't go places.
Well, yeah. So your horse can't go over sand. It doesn't go very well through wooded areas, rocky areas. So when you zoom in, you can actually see the terrain. Now on regular mode, it'll actually show like a lifted area of the square, but I just thought that meant it was higher than everything else, which, granted, it is. But, so I've started doing this to see rocky areas. Like, I've always known that mounted characters can't go through woods very well, so I would dismount before going through the woods, then remount after the woods. Did not know that for rocky areas. Was wondering why they weren't going very far. Also, I reached a point in the game where I could make a dialogue choice that I thought would affect the rest of the game. So, I had to get on the internet, and I looked all around, trying to avoid spoilers. And I finally found the dialogue choice that I needed to do. Turns out, doesn't matter. Same thing would have happened.
Whatever you say in the game doesn't matter. And that's kind of sad.
Well, you can say certain things to increase your level with another character, but the same thing's still going to be happening at the end. It's just either a positive or negative response from them.
And, you know, the thing that bothers me a little bit about that fact, because I have gone through, you know, I've only put like 10, 12 hours maybe into the game, but, you know, probably 3 of it has been listening to some of the most pointless dialogue like that has been written by somebody doing fan articles about different animes. People are not going to be happy that I said that, but some of the dialogue hurts my soul.
It's very cheesy.
It is.
Like I'm farther into the game where they're.
I'm waiting for that.
What is it?
I'm seeing little bits of dialogue that look really interesting, and I guess the thing that's bothering me is that you started the beginning of the game with all this choice, then it's gone.
Technically,
does that work better? Does it get more choice?
I can't spoil this for you.
Yeah,
because it will spoil.
I interrupted you anyway, so you can kind of.
Well, no, like so I'm a little farther into the game where people's relationships have progressed farther because it's on a letter system of C through A plus, S. No, C through S. That's what it is. C, B, A, then S being the best one. So it's getting to the point now where it's farther up and getting to like A rank relationships, but they start talking about things that I have no idea about what happened. Like I'm in the relationship section, or what is it called? The
support.
Support, yes, the support section, where you can see who all wants to talk to each other and everything. So one of my characters is like, "Hey, you got injured." I was like, "When did this person get injured?" Like, when that last fight, you protected me. You jumped in the way of something and you got injured. And the other one's like, "Oh, well, it's just minor. I'm clear to go back to the battlefield tomorrow." I was like, "None of this happened. None of this happened on the field. What is this?"
That's still better than what I'm getting. I'm talking to one guy right now just as like to build support, and he's like, "Boy, I love eating. I love eating all the time. Eating is awesome. Oh my gosh, I'm so hungry. I wants to eat."
Is it the big, tall, buff dude whose like shirt is like about to pop?
Yes. Oh my gosh, he drives me
guy.
crazy. And I picked the. Last time we haven't really talked about who we picked because last episode was.
Right before it came out.
So I picked the Golden Eagles. Wait, no, not Golden Eagles.
Golden
Deer.
The Golden Showers.
Sorry. No. God, dang it, Rowdy.
The Golden Deer.
Golden Deer. All right. I picked them because they were they were not all nobles. I like the idea of the group of, or they weren't royalty. I like the idea of having the alliance where it's all these random people and they're not everybody else. I tried to make the decision not based on the main person.
Yes.
I tried to make it based on the rest of the team because I was going to have to deal with all their dialogue later on. I knew that about Fire Emblem. So they seemed the least annoying to me. But
yeah.
So you chose...
I chose the Blue Lions.
Blue guys.
Only because I heard Blue Lions and I thought Voltron.
Yeah. I can see that.
But no, the Blue Lions, they had a lot more physical damage characters, and I've never been really good with magic in games.
So I love me some magic.
But then I changed a lot of characters over to magic when I found out that magic does hella damage to armored characters.
Yeah, I have noticed that because there was one of the matches I was in, I was having... really hard time because there is the weapons triangle in the game, but it's not the same as it used to be.
No, not at all.
But definitely heavy armor versus magic, that is still there.
Oh yeah,
because I had like 4 people surrounding this one guy, and it was like doing one damage. I brought in a magic user and lit him up in one turn.
Yeah, one hit kill.
Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous.
My smallest, most timid character does the most damage to armored characters. She does like a million times her XP in damage. Okay, not that high, but it's ridiculous. Like the damage she can do on magic. Actually turned her into a sword user as well. So I got her to the master class. She is a mortal savant. So her two skills, she is an A+ in sword and an A+ in dark magic.
So
and
I'm just now getting to the
people.
advanced stages with some.
It's awesome.
So I'm still confused, I guess, in a way. So you're supposed to go with what they want to change to, right? Or can you just really...
You can do whatever you want.
Do whatever you want. Will it...
Yeah.
Will it make it to where those characters are not as effective, though, if I take a magic user and then turn them into a heavy armor
I have
Lance
one
person?
character that I kept changing what they were going to be just because every time I changed them to another area, they were not effective
Gotcha.
in that area. And now this character can't do anything because everybody's like they're a higher level character, but they're just a jack of all trades now.
Right.
And they're just terrible at everything they do. So you really need to pick one thing.
And just kind of go.
And really, your smaller characters need to be archers or magic users. And this one guy, he was a smaller character. He can move real far, so I tried to make him a tank. Didn't work. So then I switched him back to being an archer, and I'm just so far into the game that I just can't do anything with him now.
So I have a lot of archers on my team because I'm in the Golden Deer. They love them some bow and arrows, which is cool because I actually like playing with archers and then having a line of fighters, swords, and lances in front, and I like to pick off people slowly and try to keep centralized as much as I can. Because I'm really bad about sending one character out to fight, and then I realize, oh wait, 5 other characters can hit him. Dead.
Well, yeah, no, and that's another thing. Once you get in some of the later battles, there will be reinforcements that show up out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So you will have split your team, and you have split them based on their strengths and weaknesses. So you send, all of your mounted characters in to get the archers real quick.
Yeah.
And then you send your flying characters elsewhere because your archers are going to hit them, or their archers are going to hit them. So you split them, and then all of a sudden reinforcements show up.
Yeah.
And the reinforcements are strong against your team. It's annoying.
Yeah, so, I do need to play more. I got stuck in a hotel these last 4 or 5 days, and I was playing some mobile, like a handheld, which is fine. I preferred it to the TVs because the TVs there couldn't even do 1080p. And, nowhere to sit in the hotel, and it's way on the other side, and it's like a tiny little screen, and I hated it. So I didn't play as much Fire Emblem as I probably should because I did things like go to escape rooms.
Yeah?
Yeah. You ever been to one?
I have, actually. It was...
You need to do some out in this area.
I went to one not far from where we live, and I had to do it with people that I work with.
Ah, like a team building exercise?
Yeah, team building exercise.
Yeah.
And when we got in there, it was a little ridiculous because some of the stuff we wouldn't have figured out on our own. Like that you had, was it 2 or 3 tips that you could get? And I mean, there was just stuff that we could not have figured out on our own.
Yeah, so we had to. The guy gave us the stats of the room before we went in there. We went to. I was in Houston, which is like over 100 miles away. So, fun fact: whenever we go to this, one of the teachers that were with us was like, "Hey, we should all go to an escape room." And so they pull up the place. It is in a place where you don't want to stop and ask directions down the road. But the game room was really nice. And come to find out, it was an old friend of mine from college.
Nice.
That ran the thing. So if you're in Houston, Holmes Escape Games, really good place. But they explained it really well because none of us really had done an escape room before. And so they're like, yeah, average people use 6 clues and all this other stuff. But we managed to get through there with 6 minutes and 17 seconds left. Yeah. But it was all about this clown that had locked everybody up, and it was really fun. It was well done. They went to another game room and they said that this one was more fun. It just wasn't as nice looking because the other people obviously spent a lot of money on it. But the one thing that really caught us was there were arrows on this. It was like an ice cream parlor setup. And there were arrows on these little ice cream buckets on the other side we couldn't get to because there was a locked door. And we entered those arrows in on one of these locks. Well, it wasn't right. What you had to do, and this is when we had to use a clue, and the way we had to do a clue was everybody had to hold up their hands. And he would put the clue on the screen and it'd go bong. So you had to look into the reflection of a napkin holder at the arrows and see the arrows in mirror image. I thought that was really smart. And
dude,
there was like a makeshift Rubik's Cube that you had to figure out, and it came apart in different ways. It was just a really cool one. There was a lot of magnets involved, so there was a little machine on the little thing on the wall, and you had to use magnets to slide these little discs in this glass plate. And there were pictures occasionally of places in there, and whenever you put all the things on a table in a certain way, it would unlock a door somewhere. So there were like magnets on the bottom, and when you activated the correct magnets, it would pop open somewhere. Which screwed us up because we accidentally were too close. Whenever I'd put an ice cream scoop in this thing with 3 other ice cream scoops, and it opened the door underneath me, but my foot was so close to it that I never noticed it opening. So it was really kind of fun. We ended up, they had to find the brain of the clown. And there was a suit, and they said that most people actually wear the clown suit thinking that's how you unlock the game. And he just does it for kicks. But anyway, it was really fun. I'm going to have to try out more escape rooms in the future. I hear there's a couple in our area. So
this one that I went in, the one clue that we couldn't find, we kept coming back to this hat rack that had all these letters written on it. Mm-hmm. And we're trying to decipher everything. Like, we're looking under the hat rack. We're trying to, piece together all of these letters, that we're writing everything down. We just can't figure out anything on it. So it turns out the clue was you actually had to take a tie that was somewhere in the room, not on the coat rack.
Yeah.
And then you had to have the tie at the top and then wrap it around the coat rack to cover up letters. And then it had your password.
That's crazy.
It was ridiculous, man. Like, we didn't know that we had to use a tie to cover everything up.
So, weird thing, whenever I've been talking to some people about the locations on escape rooms, they were telling me that because, the place that we went was kind of in a shady area. They were telling me that a lot of escape rooms tend to be in kind of shadier areas or shadier parts of towns because the buildings are so cheap. Mm-hmm. And you can rent the building and then do whatever you want with it.
Pretty much.
It's just sit there and dilapidate. So it was cool. You might end up in some scary places. Don't stop and ask for directions if there are 20 people hanging around a grocery store at, midnight.
Dude, everybody's got GPS built into their eyeballs now.
Yeah, that is true. Oh, I wasn't stopping for anything. But anyway, next game that we've been playing, Rowdy made me play Minecraft.
Yeah, for years he's talked about how, I'm not going to play Minecraft. I don't like it.
Minecraft's dumb.
Stupid.
It is.
I haven't played tons of Minecraft, but I do love playing it. I'll start a new world all the time and, make a little house and everything and play for a couple of hours, then put it away for a few months. Well, I finally convinced Travis to play Minecraft, and he didn't hate it.
Yeah, and even the wives were watching us whenever we played, and mine was like, that was actually really fun to watch y'all play that, because y'all are funny. So we need to stream Minecraft one day. It's going to get wild.
We kept flooding all the caverns we made.
Yes, and there was a cow that was very disruptive.
BT Dubs, I've been watching a lot of Minecraft mods. Mm-hmm. There's some crazy ones out there. I'm not that into Minecraft, but they're fun to watch.
Yeah, I'm going to have to start figuring things out in that game because it's fun.
It is, dude. It's totally awesome.
I know people right now that have been trying to get me to play Minecraft for years, and yep,
and they hate you now.
Finally happened. Just wait to see the direct messages like, "When we play Minecraft now?" Yeah. All right. Other than that, there were random games that I played. Some Smash Brothers the other day. Dragon Quest Heroes there.
I need to boot it up. It's been a while.
Yeah, Dragon Quest Heroes is interesting. I don't understand a whole lot about the character, but it is really cool if you were into the Dragon Quest series. So.
Yeah.
But I think that's about it for the games that we played recently.
Yeah, I mean, I'm 45 hours into Fire Emblem. I haven't played anything else.
Been Fire Emblem. People have been putting me in cages and stuff. So
it's
crazy. Weird. It locks everywhere and clowns. All right. Next up is topic and news. So, surprise! What just released on Switch?
Pillars of Eternity.
Yeah! I'm so excited about that.
That was a rumor I heard a while back, actually. But I thought it was supposed to be Deadfire.
Well,
that may have been the rumor part.
Deadfire is coming out.
Okay.
That has been announced. And I don't really think they announced that the OG Pillars of Eternity was going to come out.
Yeah, I just thought it was going to be Deadfire.
They're just like, hey guys, boom, it's out. Now, if you've never played Pillars of Eternity, or you never heard me talk about Deadfire,
if you've listened to this podcast, you've heard it.
You've heard it. It's a it's a CRPG, computer RPG. It is not turn-based. It is pause-based. So what you do is you kind of like click your characters, you click which spells or attacks you want them to do. Then it goes. Then you pause it whenever you're ready to enter in the next one. You can let them keep rolling. You can actually, there's programmable AI for all your characters. So if you really don't want to play the game, like the battle mechanics, and you just want to go through it, you can set different AI choices and let them fight. And if you win, you win. If not, redo your AI, change it, or go back and level up and fight.
The AI in Fire Emblem's terrible. Don't auto battle.
I have found that out.
The only thing it's good for is retreat.
Man, I did set. AI was terrible, and honestly, the auto instruction is terrible.
Yeah.
I was just kind of bored with trying to train certain people, so I was like, oh, well, I would think that it's going to see all these people that are super happy and not pick all the people that are depressed. Nope. It's going to pick every single person that does not want to learn at all.
Yeah, I didn't mean to sidetrack us. I just remembered that, though.
Yeah, that was a good sidetrack, though. Good point. But anyway, so Pillars of Eternity, great game, great story. If you've never played it, great thing to pick up on Switch. That being said, if you have a PC...
play it on there.
Play it there. Mouse, keyboard is a lot easier to deal with. And the one thing I was hoping for with Deadfire and original Pillars of Eternity, I wanted pointing controls, kind of like World of Goo. I think that's one of the games that have it, where you can point at the screen on the Switch and click and move things. Or touchscreen is not there. It's set up like the Xbox or PlayStation 4.
Everybody's trying to get away from the movement stuff now.
Man, and it sucks. I want that back in my life. But good game.
That's actually something we could talk about a little later when we get into the Switch. I'm gonna mentally add that in.
Jot it out. Ding.
Mental note. There we go. Okay.
All right. Next one is loot boxes.
Oh, God.
Surprise mechanic.
I hate loot boxes. I will be the first person to tell you that if you tell me I'm going to get a certain thing and I pay this much for it, I'll do it. Hey, you get this costume or you get this DLC or something like that. I'm the first person that will line up and I will buy that. No problem. I will buy new missions for games. I will buy season passes for new characters and things like that to extend the game. But I just cannot get into the surprise aspects of loot boxes. It just annoys the hell out of me putting money in something and not knowing what I'm going to get, or getting something I already have.
And to me, they don't bother me so much if there's no money possibly involved. To where there are some games that I will play that are first-person shooters or stuff, and or team arena shooters, games like that, to where you might get a different costume. Mm-hmm. And it's got a random loot box whenever you reach a certain level. But they are, of course, trying to get you to pay for an alternative loot box that gets you more. That I have issues with.
Yes.
If it's just a cosmetic thing and it's just for fun inside the game, don't mind. But if it's going to be, you will lose the game more often because you're not getting an extra card. If it's a card style game, or if it's you don't have weapons that are powered up enough unless you pay for these nice shiny loot boxes.
You're pay to win situations.
Yeah. So what's happening is Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft is requiring loot boxes to disclose odds, which is pretty awesome that they just came out of the blue and slapped EA on the face. Not quite literally, but close enough. Because, and all these other companies that do it, honestly, that's a big deal. I mean, you were telling me, what's up with how much money does EA make off of FIFA?
EA estimates a quarter, 1/4, 25% of their multi-billion-dollar a year income comes from FIFA microtransactions.
So what do you actually get with a loot box on FIFA? I don't play. Play football.
I forget the actual mode that it's called, but you basically build a team. Okay, so in these loot boxes, you pay for a randomized drop, and each drop is a footballer, a soccer player, an athlete who kicks a ball on a team. So you can try and get your favorite character, but obviously the more popular characters, it's going to be a lower percent rate to drop and give you that person. So you can read countless stories on just FIFA loot boxes of kids getting a hold of their parents' credit cards and things like that and just wiping them out and not even getting their favorite player. To me, that's so annoying. And to me, it really got bad when there was Star Wars Battlefront 2 was coming out. I had pre-ordered this game. It looks awesome. I love Star Wars. I love the Battlefield type games. So Star Wars Battlefront is basically Star Wars and Battlefield mixed together. But then when I found out that you would have to grind for 70 hours just to unlock, I want to say it was either Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader, one of the main characters in Star Wars. Oh my God, that's so much time. Or you could get loot boxes where you could randomly get Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader, or you could randomly get cards that would upgrade your character and destroy everybody in the game. So then just from there, it's going downhill. So I think the reason, now this isn't confirmed, this is an opinion, I honestly believe that Nintendo, Sony, and Microsoft are banding together to do this because they don't want the government stepping in. That's why we created the ESRB in the mid-90s?
Well, I mean, you even look at movies. I mean, the rating boards for PG, PG-13R, all that stuff was done by the movie industry to keep the government.
Yes, and that didn't come out till the mid-'80s. Like, people don't realize that. Like, I was born before they started rating movies. Like, Jaws, when it first came out, didn't have a rating.
Yeah, and, part of that is so we don't have to make extra laws for it, and then you don't have issues that happen of essentially affecting what can be and what cannot be in a video game.
Exactly.
And, that is a good thing that they're stepping in. Now, what I'm curious about is, will the PC storefronts also jump in on this? I don't think they're necessarily going to. Steam, maybe.
Ooh, Steam, I think would be the last one.
Well, no, I think Epic Games Store.
I think they'll be the first to do it because they're on top of they're on top of their stuff right now, and it feels like.
But how do they make money?
Well, no. Most of their money comes from microtransactions in Fortnite.
Bingo.
But the reason why I think they'll be one of the first to come forward is because they're trying to stay in front of everything right now. I don't think they necessarily want to.
Well, I do think I remember reading something that they changed Fortnite's stuff too. Well, maybe you're right.
It wouldn't surprise me one bit.
They are starting to do that. I did read an article about that.
It's not because they want to and they're trying to look out for the consumers. They're trying to stay ahead of everything.
Oh, yeah. You don't want to get sued.
Ooh, no.
No.
But then Steam, like, God, I don't even know if I want to say this.
Say it.
I like the Epic Game Store for certain reasons. Like, there's not a wide selection on there right now. But then if you look at Steam, there's so much shovelware and trash can games that I have to...
Rowdy, how can you say this? Steam is the best thing ever created.
I mean, Steam is awesome, and I love it. But there's so much trash there.
I agree. I mean, you can't, throw a rock without hitting a game that should not exist.
Exactly.
And is barely staying up.
I mean, I'm sure there's a game on there that's so much trash that you actually play as a trash can and you collect dumpster juice.
Oh, boy.
I mean,
we ought to make a game like that.
That would literally be a trash can game.
Hi, I'm Johnny the Dumpster. I'm going to go around and collect all the dumpster juice. I'm going to catch everything on fire. Dumpster fire.
Yeah, exactly. The game is a dumpster fire. But, I mean, when it comes to these microtransactions, I don't see PC jumping on it as quick as consoles.
Yeah, I think there's so much room open for PC games to make money off of microtransactions. And you look at some of you look at the whole idea behind game players from other countries making money off of going in and farming and all this other stuff and selling these things. I would love to see them crack down on that stuff. I would love to see them crack down on multiplayer and all these people that are cheating the system. I don't see it happening. I think PC is just too separated. There's, we have 3 big console makers that are working together. But, console is at the end of a generation. There is still some risk involved with taking a big stand like this. Because what if the next we keep waiting for the next big, I guess, console recession in a way. There's a little bit of risk doing that. Now, it's a smart move because it looks good to consumers. So maybe, maybe in the end it'll be good because more people are going to be more likely to buy consoles because they don't feel like they're going to get cheated. So they can actually go through and play the next Fortnite or whatever. And, so they know it'll be a fair playing field.
The way you have to look at it is video game companies are not only making video games for the consumers, they're also making video games for the shareholders. So they have to find a happy medium of making money so that the shareholders will be happy and making good games so that the consumers will be happy. And it's a really hard line to skate. So we're just going to have to see, because going into the whole loot box thing, Nintendo was getting into the mobile phone or the mobile game arena. And what is it? Was Super Mario Run the first one they did?
Yeah, but Fire Emblem Heroes makes a ton of money for Nintendo.
Well, yeah. If you compare the money that Super Mario Run makes compared to ding-a-ding-ding.
Ding-ding-ding. Hey, ExpressVPN sent ads. Okay.
So if you compare the money that Super Mario Run made compared to Fire Emblem Heroes, Super Mario Run, you could play the first world, and then if you wanted to play the rest, you could pay a flat fee of $10, and you have the whole game. You don't have to spend another dime on it, which I did, and I actually enjoyed it. I mean, as far as a cell phone game goes. But then you look at Fire Emblem, which is based off of microtransactions. Multi-microtransactions. It is ridiculous how much it made. Let's see, Travis is pulling it up right here, but if I'm not mistaken, I want to say Fire Emblem Heroes has quadrupled, if not more, the money that Super Mario Run made.
Yeah, it was something crazy. Here it is. All right. Whoops. Things are happening and it's bad. Okay, so Nintendo worldwide mobile player spending. Super Mario Run, 68 million. Animal Crossing, 70 million. Dragalia Lost, 74 million.
Which is surprising it made that much, as it's a new IP and it's only on cell phones.
Right? Dragalia Lost wasn't that good. And it's doing better than Mario.
But Fire Emblem Heroes, how much has that made?
Fire Emblem Heroes, $500 million.
$500 million. So when I said, they've done, quadruple, if not more, it's way more.
And I think it's actually more than that now because these are numbers from February.
Okay.
So it's probably even more than that right now.
Seeing as Fire Emblem just came out, people probably caught up on Fire Emblem Heroes.
Yeah. So
not myself.
We'll have to update that in just a bit whenever we figure out the exact number. But anyway, they make lots of money now. And Fire Emblem, how do you make money not by doing loot boxes? You make money by... Well, it kind of is a loot box system.
No, it is, because it's a free-to-play game.
So here's going to be the weird thing. So they are making it show loot boxes chances, right? And Nintendo is guilty of this. But are they going to require this if you spend money directly on the loot box? Or do they count it if you buy the
Currency?
money, the currency, in-game currency, and then you use in-game currency to buy the loot box? Do they still require you to put that chance there?
I mean, I think you'll still
I would hope so.
You'll still have to put the chance, but you're not going to get away from in-game currencies because that's why it's always offset. Like 1 point does not equal $1,
Yeah.
or 10 points does not equal $1. It's always something weird, like 800 points equals $5, like something weird to offset everything. And that's just to make everything different, I guess you could say, so that you lose track of how much actual money you're spending.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And so Nintendo, they've actually gone on record saying that they don't want to microtransaction the hell out of their games, but at the same time, the company DNA, who's making all of the, actually I think they've made every Nintendo cell phone game. Their shareholders, they want to see money.
Yeah.
And so Nintendo's kind of
dollar bill.
put between a rock and a loot box.
I think that
mean,
worked.
They have to, I guess, a loot box in a hard place. I don't know, but they've had to do this. Like they've had to put in microtransactions. So if you look at, I saw an article or a video that Inside Gaming put out. Inside Gaming is a game channel that has affiliations with Rooster Teeth. They put out a video of one of their employees actually bought an old unlocked cell phone so that they could circumvent the worldwide, I guess, beta release or the worldwide release of Pokemon Masters because it's releasing last in America. So they were able to get on the, I want to say either the South Korea release, so they've actually got to play it for quite some time, which is still in English, even though they got on the South Korean release. So they started playing the game and were talking about just how ridiculous the microtransactions are in it and how they were very disappointed in the game for how much there are in it. So then somebody even went as far as to estimate the percentages of certain drops. And some of these percentages are in the, well, because maybe Nintendo released it, but they said there was a I don't know, let's say one thing was like a 1.3% chance of an epic drop. Well, an epic Pokemon is considered, and then they'll list those Pokemon. So that means that your percentage is actually lower of getting a certain Pokemon. So you take that 1.3 or 1.8 or whatever that percentage was, and then you have to divide that by how many Pokemon are in that section.
Yeah.
So then your percentages get even lower. So that's another thing. They can do, I bet they won't have to do an actual percentage of what you want,
Right.
but of what you will get.
Yeah, and so, you know, I look at games like Diablo, which is on a loot box system or surprise mechanic system, and I couldn't imagine them putting the actual percentages for everything you could get.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, I'm agreeing. Like, how do you? I guess they're going to have to determine tiers, like, you know, crappy item, mediocre item, it's pretty item, and
Well, yeah, that's the way the Pokemon...
we'll destroy the rest of the world if you get this in a giant laser beam of fire item. You know, which is a very low percentage.
That's how they said Pokemon Masters was set up. Was they had by your epic drop or your, I mean, or whatever the hell the drops were called.
Yeah.
But that's how it's set up. And you know, now that we're talking about all of this microtransaction system, like, microtransactions are shady, but it's also not the kind of games that I'm into.
Right.
But at the same time, people always say, you know, oh, well, my kids got into this and they bought this and this. And people say, oh, well, you should watch your kids more. Well, a lot of people give their kids cell phones or tablets.
Yeah, they're babysitting mechanics.
It's a babysitting mechanic. And I don't know about most of you out there, but when I was 11, 12, 13, computers and the internet were getting big to the point where every household was starting to have a PC, which was actually unheard of before the 90s, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah.
But I knew more about computers, I knew more about the internet, and I knew more about circumventing parental filters than my parents did.
Oh, absolutely.
So you give a kid a cell phone, they're going to know more about it than their parents eventually. And they're going to be able to circumvent everything.
They have all day. They don't have anything major to do other than figuring out how do I get cool stuff I'm not supposed to be on.
Well, exactly. So you could watch your kid. You could watch everything they're doing and still not understand that they are spending thousands of dollars on this game.
And, we didn't have the, I guess, luxury of being on internet-connected consoles.
No.
Yeah, that was unheard of, except for, like, the Sega. There was, like, a Sega modem that you could go in and play, like, like the proto Netflix of gaming.
Oh, awful.
Yeah, it was...
It went through dial-up.
Oh, yeah, you remember...
Dial-up internet sound was the original dubstep, and it was slow as hell.
Yeah. Oh, dude. So random you were talking about...
Man.
Let's talk about being old. I remember before hard drives, I had a computer. My dad had computers for a long time before the interwebs really even hit in this area. And I remember we started on a computer that was just floppy disk based.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whenever I say floppy disk, I mean floppy, like actual floppies.
And that was the boot disk.
Yeah. And I remember we got a computer, and I was like, he's like, oh yeah, and there's a C drive on it. I didn't for years, I thought C drive just meant hard drive for everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was so mind-boggling that I didn't have to put a disc in for every little thing. If I wanted to play freaking, I think we had Jeopardy. We had, oh yeah, there was Wheel of Fortune on there. There was some random RPG. There was a Leisure Suit Larry, which...
Christ.
wasn't supposed to play as a kid. And they're just like... I remember the system for, telling you whether you can get onto the game or not was, answering a question that old people would know.
Oh,
which would not work for video games nowadays. Who was the president in 1953? And, nowadays it's I can just go to Google and answer this. And play this absolutely atrocious game with pixelated parts. Anyway, so, yeah, but that was a long time ago, man.
My first computer had a 75 megabyte hard drive. 75 megabyte!
Mine didn't even have a hard drive.
Hard drive. Christ. It was awful. Man, we talked about that for a long time.
You kids and your fancy things nowadays.
Man, we got to move on.
All right, let's move on because we're talking too long.
I got mad, man.
All right. We actually, before the shows we record, I'm starting to try to put out, what do y'all want us to talk about? So one thing that was actually brought up is, do you guys think the Switch Lite releasing soon will make developers focus less on features such as HD Rumble, IR functionality, or split Joy-Con play?
Yeah. I think yeah.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, a lot of this, the Switch was kind of like a Swiss Army knife. And
a Switch Army knife?
Yeah, Switch Army. Fancy one, Rowdy. Good one.
But
clink glass. Yes. All right. So IR, first of all, if you're using the Switch Army knife example, would be like the plastic toothpick in a Swiss Army knife.
Nobody really uses it.
And you lose it half the time anyway. The IR function was pretty much useless.
It was only used in, 1-2 Switch and then the Labo stuff.
Yeah.
That's it.
And, it might be cool if you were... No, there's really nothing you can do that's that cool with it. It's essentially a camera that uses infrared light. And then split Joy-Con play is interesting. I do find some uses for it, but I'd rather use a Pro Controller.
But at the same time, if you play Mario Party, you have to use split Joy-Cons. You cannot use Pro Controllers. You cannot use anything else but split Joy-Cons.
If they were to update Mario Party and make it to where you could use Pro Controllers, I find that a net benefit. Because it's stupid to force people to use this little rinky-dinky. If you were going to pay $60,000 or $60, however much it is for a Pro Controller, I don't remember. If you're going to pay $1,000,010 to buy a Pro Controller, I want to use it for everything that it should be able to. Instead of
Mario Party, it doesn't. The little controller doesn't hinder you. I'm being serious because there's not a lot on there because a lot of the games used to be you have to spin the joystick real fast. There's nothing on that there's nothing on there like that.
Do you have to like use it as a sword, or is there like casting or anything that would be?
No, not really.
So then why do we need it?
Because they make you.
Exactly. I'm talking about the man is telling us what to do, Rowdy, and hopefully the Switch Lite will break that chain. All right, now the one thing that I do...
Oh, wait, no, there is movement stuff. Never mind, I lied. I'm
right.
sorry. There are games where you have to, like, move a microscope or something, and then there's one where you have to flip a pan. I lied to you, and I'm sorry.
Filthy liar.
I'm sorry.
Whatever. All right, we're over it. Okay, HD Rumble, though, I like.
Yeah.
But they're really, like I said, unless you're, like, trying to feel, the big demo was ice in a glass... unless you're trying to show that, there's not a whole lot of use for it.
No.
I mean, I did like that coin sounds could be represented. One of the cool things about HD Rumble is they could put basically a WAV file in, and then the Rumble would recreate that. That was cool for a while, but I'll be honest, I haven't really noticed it much.
The big thing for me is the split Joy-Cons. Because there are quite a few times that I've played games where we split the Joy-Cons and we play. And you can't do that now on the Switch Lite, or they call it tabletop mode.
Yeah.
You can't do tabletop mode now, which is kind of even if I need to look into it now because I don't know if you could do it even if you Bluetooth Joy-Cons to it.
I think they did say you can.
You can?
Yeah.
Okay. But then you would still need Joy-Cons and something separate to charge those Joy-Cons on.
Yeah, that's really silly.
Yeah.
I definitely think the Wii Switch Lite, especially if it jumps off. There is a chance that this thing kind of flounders anyway.
It
I
won't.
doubt it.
It's releasing the same time as Pokemon.
Yeah, and it's going to be, little kids are going to eat this up. They're going to be like, Grandma, everything's $100 off. And they're going to buy them in droves. More than the Switch is already selling, which is more than hotcakes for old people terms.
I don't really like hotcakes. What are hotcakes?
I think they're pancakes.
Oh, never mind. Then I love hotcakes.
Yeah, hotcakes are awesome. What the heck are you thinking? I could be wrong. They could be something else. Anyway, so that's what our thoughts are on that. Next thing up, dude. The game that I'm super excited for.
You were very excited about this game.
I'm so excited about Outer Worlds. It's stupid.
I really, really want to play it, but this man is super excited.
So, do you think it's going to be better than Fallout 76?
Oh, yeah. Yeah,
definitely.
Yeah.
Most likely. Possibly.
You remember that trash can game I was talking about?
Fallout 76?
No.
Oh.
There's probably a trash can game on Steam where you play as a trash can and you collect dumpster juice.
Oh, yeah. Johnny the Dumpster Can.
That would be better than Fallout 76.
Now, I didn't go back to start playing it, but Fallout 76 is... It's like the dumpster fire is slowly going out. So we'll see if the next update helps it whenever they actually add a single-player mode. But this game looks like, and it's kind of been advertised under the table as, the successor to Fallout New Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
I'm hoping it is, because it's made by a lot of the people that made Fallout New Vegas.
I love that game. It is far superior compared to Fallout 76.
Oh, yeah.
But then again, Fortnite is superior to Fallout 76.
That's sad.
I hate Fortnite.
I hate myself for thinking that.
Yeah.
Ooh. All right. So, cool thing about this game is choice is going to be all over this game. You don't even have to play as the good guy. You can be bad. You can be the bad guy. You can be evil. Which, the cool thing about what Obsidian's been doing with a lot of their games lately is they are putting in actual RPG elements into games, and they figured out ways to kind of build the stories to make it to where, one, you can pretty much do what you want, how you want to do it, and you can replay it again and kind of see whole new things. They tend to make different factions of enemies. It's not like you against this one set of enemies, or there might be like one overarching theme you're going against, but you can side up with a whole bunch of people. And honestly, there tends to be some good choices or choices that are better than others. There's always like a shade of gray regarding good and bad. But we're not talking like 50 Shades of Grey. It's not that kind of game. Yeah. But it adds a lot of replayability. Rowdy's gonna talk a lot about New Vegas. I'm probably going to talk a lot about Deadfire, which are both games made by these people.
I love New Vegas.
But with Deadfire, you had various factions you could team up with to go take on the giant dude that was basically going to run through and destroy the whole reincarnation system of how you exist in the game. That was just like traipsing through and stepping on islands and stuff. And you could play it 5 different ways with 5 different characters. It would be almost completely different with how things go. And I think you can also kind of, based on your dialogue and stuff, or what attributes you've put interest into in this game, it might close you off from certain areas. I think that was something you were talking about earlier.
Yeah, one of the previews I saw talked about that a lot.
Yeah, so some cool things with the game is there is a very interesting perk and flaw system. So basically what's going to happen is, if you want to have something better about your character, like there's one called Slow the World. I accidentally put Sow the World. It will actually up the amount of time that you have during tactical time dilation, which is pretty much VATS for the outer world. Or maybe you have Cheetah Sprint. It adds sprint speed. Well, you have to take a flaw a lot of the times. Or if something happens in the game, it'll force a flaw on you. So one cool one was permanent concussion. Do you want to talk about some of that?
This one happened. I saw it was the announcement trailer for the game coming out on Switch. One of the developers was talking about the permanent concussion is if you take too many blows to the head, you get permanent concussion. And I don't know if you know about concussions in the real world. They're not a good thing.
Yeah, they're kind of bad for you.
They make your brain kind of funky. The best way to put it.
Basically, when your brain touches the side of your head, not the fluid, right?
Yeah, it's not good because you have a bunch of fluid and cushion in there.
Did you know your brain's like the consistency of toothpaste? And if it touches the side of your head, it's not good.
No, not at all.
It's bad.
So when you get the permanent concussion, you start talking out of your head and saying weird things when you have dialogue choices, and your companions have to butt in and be like, I don't know what they're talking about, but, and they try and fix what you say, I guess. It wasn't 100% sure, but you talk out of your head when you have permanent concussion.
And so that's actually been one thing that I've noticed some people on message boards have been saying, man, we've wanted to be able to be a dumb character in a video game for a while. And you actually can, where you can be a character that is not necessarily hero-esque. I did this in Deadfire on purpose. Like, whenever you import your save from another game file in the first Pillars of Eternity, in Deadfire, you can actually pick the path that is just, you made all the wrong choices. Nice. And so Obsidian makes it in their games where you can essentially pick everything wrong and screw everything up. Everyone hates you, and there's no, there's nothing good about you. And I made a character that was like that. Like, I imported a save, because you can choose, if you've never played it before, different paths in the other game. And I made a dwarf character that was a summoner that hid behind a shield the whole time and threw explosives.
Okay.
Because I was just thinking, what could screw up everything the most? I would imagine if you summon dragons and throw explosions, you're eventually going to just screw everybody up. And I made sure to pick all the choices that could be the absolute worst. I ticked off everybody on my team, and they started leaving my team. And that's what's cool about Obsidian games is the companions in these games are affected by what you say, what you believe. They will straight up leave you.
Yeah.
Permadeath can happen in this game. On this one it was showing. And the writing's pretty good for it, too. And based on your stats, it's actually going to affect the dialogue. So let's say you have... I'm looking on here, one of the flaws is robophobia. And it forces you to struggle against robots more than people. Well, robophobia will affect you whenever you're talking, if maybe it's a robot character that's talking to you. There's paranoia. There's all sorts of cool little things. But also, let's say, I don't know the exact stats for everything right now, but let's say your character has low perception. You might miss obvious flaws, or you might get extra talking points if you notice something on somebody that you wouldn't get if you didn't have enough points in that category, which can affect how the game flows. So yeah, I'm pretty darn excited about it. And one cool thing is, one thing that people were complaining about, that this game is not, we want to say that it's a Fallout New Vegas, I guess, successor? Yeah, that's a word.
Spiritual sequel?
Spiritual sequels. All right.
Spiritual successor.
Yeah, that's a good combination of words.
That's what it's called.
Yes. But it's not going to be open world completely. It's not going to be as big of a world as a lot of people are thinking. I think we mentioned that last podcast too.
Yeah, and then one of the previews I saw, they actually talked about it. They're like, it is fairly open, but not as open as people think.
Yeah.
Which is not necessarily a bad thing.
But, with the amount of... They got to balance this world. And if you've got various groups of people you can team up with, and there's so much choice in the game, there's only so many hundreds of interactions in a game that you can program for without making this game last 15 years.
Yeah.
And turning into a whole, Dennis Dyack effect of you try to redo the engine after 5 years. There's so much that can go wrong, so they can't make these too big. But... if it's anything like their last couple games, it'll be played in multiple ways, and there'll be areas that you will not access in one playthrough, and there'll be ways to get around those kind of things. So, looking forward to that. I think that's going to be a really good one to look for. Is there anything that you've noticed about it that you're really interested in?
I mean, all the previews I watched, it touched on a lot of the fun stuff, man. They say that it's going to be funny, but it's not like Borderlands ridiculous. They said a lot of people described it, like we said, as a New Vegas style game. You were talking about your statistics, your stats affecting certain parts of the game. One of the previews I saw. This person played through the same mission with different character builds, and one character build they were able to go head on, but another character build they had to go around it. They couldn't do that mission. They had to find a way around it without confronting it head on.
Yeah.
So unlike a lot of stat-based games where, let's say you build everything on charisma where you have to talk your way through everything, but you can still run and gun. Like this one, you're not going to be able to do that if you've built your character a certain way.
Yeah, I mean, I'd imagine you're going to run into some things like if you build your character just for fighting and tell everybody to shut up and punching them in the face,
you're not going to be liked.
Yeah, you're going to run into some issues. But same way with the other way. If you're planning on talking your way out of things, there are going to be some characters that won't talk through things. Cool thing too. They announced that this is going to be releasing on the Switch.
Yeah.
What are you going to buy it on?
I'm probably just going to play it on Xbox.
I'm going to play it on the X.
It's on Game Pass.
Yep, it's free on Game Pass.
I mean, I was going to get it.
One.
I was going to get it for PS4 because I got the PS4 Pro, but after seeing the way it looks and everything, I'm going to play it on my 1S.
So that is one thing that I do find interesting. I do think the aesthetic in this game will pare down to the Switch pretty well. I watched some 4K video, HDR video of it, and it looks really good. It's really clean, but I'm noticing the more that I'm looking at it, it's very stylized, and those kind of games do work well on the Switch.
I bet it's going to run like butt.
So concise and well thought out and explained. I don't know. I'm sure it's not going to run that great.
Yeah.
I think, though, they're going to be able to lower the polygon count and the texture quality pretty low, and it's still going to come across well. There's a lot of clean lines in some of the background designs, and it's based on like a Art Nouveau stylization done in the future.
Art nerd.
Mm-hmm. So definitely more in the Art Nouveau, going to Art Deco vein. Art Deco's a little bit later, but anyway, I think it's time to move on to the next section. Alright, Rowdy, I've been gone for a couple days. What happened while I was gone?
Alright, while you were gone, the whole world, we all voted, everybody except you. No more video games.
What?
Just none. We're done. We're going to stop selling video games everywhere. Everyone agreed loot boxes have gotten out of hand. So we're not doing video games. So instead, we've all banded together. We made a new board game that involves fidget spinners and pogs. It's pretty crazy, man. It's like 2 generations, different worldwide phenomenons that happen with 2 different generations. It's going to be the next big Fortnite.
I don't want this world.
On another note, I really hate that my cell phone automatically capitalizes Fortnite.
So that's definitely fake news. My fake news alarm is definitely going off.
Yeah.
That can't be real.
Yeah.
Okay, so some of it is a good lie. Because you said everyone agreed loot boxes got out of hand. So there's a little bit of truth in your lie.
Yeah, but then when I said everybody in the world agreed...
Yeah, that ain't happening.
That ain't happening.
All right, now let's go to some rumors that are coming around. The Nintendo Switch new console will be stronger / ish. Actually, they've tested this. So that was the rumor, and I kind of believed it too. So Nintendo is releasing a new Switch. We talked about this last time on Fake News.
I think it's already been released.
It's been released, and it's in a big red box. So if you find a Switch that's in a big red box, essentially, that's the newer type of Switch. Now, it's running on new hardware that is essentially able to make the battery life last longer. Well, Game Explain did some tests to see. It was either Game Explain or Digital Foundry, but I think it was Game Explain. To see, will it run better on different games. So they used Zelda. They used specifically the Lost Woods because that place has a ton of drops. And they used a couple of other games, but in general, it was about the same, if not ran slightly worse.
Meh.
Now, I have some concerns.
Okay.
One, I don't know if that test is going to be completely thorough, because if you got to think you've got new hardware, have these games had an update that is coded specifically for that hardware?
I mean, you think they would, because it's like, especially Zelda, because that's a Nintendo property.
Yeah.
Like,
but
I don't know about all games.
I don't think I've seen any updates come out for Zelda.
I haven't played Zelda in forever.
So, I think that there is one, they might have to code specifically for the format to make it really noticeable, but I don't think they are wanting to do that, They don't want us to notice that there's a little bit of a difference, because then there's going to be some people that are not happy. I'd be okay with it. I'd probably go get one. But, so right now it's almost, which, I mean, the Switch is running on an Android system, which is usually virtual based, virtual Java based. If it's running like an Android system, it might not be. So they're both essentially pushing emulation in a way. We'll see. I'm curious to see if that changes over time, if there are updates that take the system's power into concern, or if really Nintendo released a system that is actually on par with completely different hardware. So we'll see. So keep an eye out on that one. I don't think it's going to be stronger, and save your money for the time being until new info comes out.
They say the battery's going to last longer, but that's the only thing I've
Well, that has been proven.
Yeah.
Like, they've run, and it's longer in handheld. Like, they ran Zelda on Max, and it did Yeah, that game will eat your battery. Like, if you're out in Alaska and it's negative 20 degrees, too, and you want to warm up your house, the original Nintendo Switch, you just put it in the center of your house, put Zelda on, you got heat for the next 2.5 hours.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Now, I did hear that it doesn't run as hot,
Yeah.
the new Switch. So, if you're
cool.
trying to use this as your main source of, warmth, not going to work anymore.
I don't think there's anybody doing that, Travis.
Probably not.
I don't think there's anybody.
There's one person in Antarctica right now that's on, some mission. Yeah.
I got to fight this Octorok.
I need, an extra 3 degrees. Okay.
Octoroks make more heat.
All right, next rumor. Nintendo is going to release Super Nintendo games on the 1-year anniversary of Nintendo Switch Online.
I mean, it'd be awesome.
It'd be awesome, but have you seen what they're releasing lately? It is like the bottom of the barrel at Kmart.
The dumpster juice of
I mean,
Nintendo games.
it's just some really terrible games on the Nintendo Switch Online right now.
Well, the way I look at it is, a lot. They've already released a lot of the first party and popular games.
Yeah.
Because those were probably easier to get the licenses for.
Mm-hmm.
But now that people see that, or companies see that there are actually people buying, the Nintendo Online specifically for the NES games, I think a lot of those people are like, well, I think we can hold on to our games and possibly sell them.
Right.
Since there is there's always been a rise in retro games, but
we talk about collections.
It's easier to get them. Which again, I bring up the collections. Like you can't find any of the Konami, Castlevania, or Contra games on the Nintendo Online right now because they're released in the collections right now. Which I would suggest everybody go get. They're really good, but I think a lot of bigger companies realize that they can release collections now and do that. That's just my take on it.
Yeah.
But as far as releasing Super Nintendo games, I would totally look forward to it because Super Nintendo was my favorite retro console.
Yeah, and other than that, though, right now, there's not a whole lot on the rumor front. It's kind of quiet.
I saw at one point there were Twitter rumors of people data mining some of the updates that have come out for it.
Okay.
And stated they have seen, file names or file extensions that are associated with Super Nintendo emulation. But those weren't backed up by any... they didn't have any websites or anything backing them up. It was just speculation, which I know a lot of the time does turn out real, but it's I haven't seen any of those rumors recently. So we'll see, man. There was a little while there they were talking about it.
Now, as far as Xbox stuff going on, they're about to release a bunch of games for Game Pass is what they're hinting at the next big at Gamescom is what it's looking like. So keep an eye out for that because it looks like they're going to be revealing a whole bunch of craziness. And Game Pass is Xbox's way to keep people involved in the gaming console because sales-wise, they just released some numbers and Xbox is way down.
Well, Xbox doesn't release sales numbers anymore.
Yeah.
They release concurrent
Smart
users.
Idea. Which...
that's going to be the future. Talking about concurrent users.
Yeah, and they've gotten really big about talking how they don't need to make money off of consoles anymore, which I think is going to be interesting coming up for the Scarlet.
Yep.
Because are they, the way they're talking about the Scarlet sounds like it's going to be a $700 system.
Yes. Which is, better than trying to go out and build the highest end PC.
But
what's
going to be interesting is, are they going to take that cut in price versus the PlayStation? I think they're going to lowball PlayStation completely because they're going to release about the same time. They're very similar hardware. From all the rumors we've seen so far, it's practically the same thing. Yeah, I think the main difference is they're just probably going to talk more about the xCloud stuff, and I think something different with the ray tracing built in.
Well, if you look at it, what is it? Sony and Microsoft have signed. I don't know how to put. I guess maybe I guess you could call it an agreement, as basically sharing technology. Sony has the hardware to run AI, but Microsoft has the technology to run the AI. So they have kind of buddied up with the development of AI. So Microsoft is basically handing over, what is it, Azure? Yeah,
that's the those are the essentially like nodes for xCloud that will push bandwidth to you, essentially.
Okay. And then
they're giant data centers.
In return, PlayStation is offering hardware schematics that would help run it. So it's a weird thing right now. They're not partnered up and making something together, but they're buddy right now.
Microsoft has been super friendly though lately. You look at how they partnered up with Nintendo on things.
And PlayStation has not been friendly. Sony has not been friendly. So it's kind of weird seeing all this, but I think they're trying to stay in front of the Google thing.
Oh yeah, everybody's worried about Stadia. I still don't think Stadia is worth being worried about. just because we've had so many issues with. There's download issues are going to be all across the U.S. and then moving to mobile and dealing with congestion, which we're going to talk more about next time. There are going to be some issues with that, but. Anyway, well, I guess let's go ahead and we're going to move on to our closing segment, video games and violence. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and put out a disclaimer for the beginning of this. We are attempting to leave our political affiliations and biases out of this conversation as much as possible. However, we are products of the area we live in and our experiences. The following section is a serious discussion with many facets and many viewpoints. So let's get to it and traipse along this tripwire involving video games and violence. So there's some news, and I think Rowdy's done some more reading on this, that Walmart is banning video game ads, but not the guns. So what have you been hearing lately?
Okay, so the only thing we can confirm right now is that they are banning the game ads and demos, I'm sorry, they're banning violent video game ads and any demos in their store that play violent games. Now, one thing that I have not read is specifically what they consider violence. Now, obviously, it's definitely going to be shooters. But there have been multiple reports that cannot be confirmed, seeing that some people have redacted them. But I have found at least four so far, four different news stories, all the way up to banning all video games, not just violent video games. Now, like I said, the only thing that we can confirm is just the ads and the demos right now, but not the guns.
Gotcha. So this is a memo, and this is what's on a memo from Walmart that's being passed around.
To their employees, not just to the public,
not
to their
to the
employees.
Yeah. Immediate action. Remove signing and displays referencing violence. Review your store for any signing or display that contains violent images or aggressive behavior. Remove from the sales floor or turn off these items immediately. Use your best judgment when determining whether an element is appropriate. If you are unsure, remove the item or turn it off as a precautionary measure. And then it puts what I need to do. Turn off or unplug any video game display consoles that show a demo of violent games, specifically PlayStation and Xbox units. Anderson merchandisers will be in your store to update these demo units within the next week. Interesting that they don't really mention the Switch. I guess their demos are made for E most of the time. Cancel any events promoting combat-style or third-person shooter games that may be scheduled in electronics. Verify that no movies depicting violence are playing in electronics. So that's something I didn't catch earlier, too.
Yeah, no. I mean, it goes violence on the whole store.
Wow.
That's why, like, a lot of it's weird. Like, the way it's worded, because it's all violence throughout the store.
Turn off any hunting season videos that may be playing in sporting goods, and remove any monitors or displays that show the videos. Huh.
Well, yeah, because I mean, they show videos of, like, shooting ducks and stuff out of the sky, which aren't necessarily, like, bloody and gory and stuff, but are technically violent.
Okay, and then check all signing throughout the store and remove any referencing combat or third-person shooter video games. So, that seems to be, that's being reported by Kenneth Shepard, Vice Games, and a bunch of other places are saying that this is actually a memo that's going around. You know, there's always like a chance that it's not an actual memo going around. But, so it seems like they are trying to get any sort of depictions of violence at all. Now, why would Walmart want to get rid of these altogether? So before, I guess, we get into it, let's kind of go with the worst case scenario for us gamers. What happens if Walmart gets rid of video games? So, because that's a rumor that's going on now, right?
Yeah, so that's a worst case scenario because if you can tie, or if you could say all video games are now banned from Walmart, there are a lot of areas in the United States that are very rural and don't have other stores. And the only thing they have in these cities are a Walmart. Therefore, this is the only place that some of these people can get video games. Now, we're talking these places are so rural, Rural. I hate that word.
We're in a rural area, too.
There are some places that are so rural that it's hard to even get Amazon to deliver things out there.
And so that is something, I was thinking about, too. Is this a plausible move for Walmart? Because, we know it's going to affect rural people the most. It's not going to affect urban gamers because they have GameStop, they have secondhand stores.
Oh, yeah.
There's all sorts of people that sell video games. But the rural gamers would have to go to Amazon. Now, is this a potential move that won't affect them that much, do you think, because Amazon's probably already eating into their market?
I don't think it'll affect Walmart themselves just because they sell so much other things. Like, I highly doubt that video games is a giant profit for them. Now, I bet electronics probably are, but video games alone probably aren't enough to affect Walmart's profits.
Gotcha. Now, there is an update regarding...
Yeah, I've read that one.
Saying that there is no policy banning video games, so we're going to play this more along the lines of what ifs. So... Now, random Lite thing. There is a dog moving next across us right now. while we're talking about this heavy topic, dogs decided to jump in. Okay, so I think it could be plausible that they could shut this down and not make a whole bunch, not have that big of a problem. Because the more I visit Walmart video game sections, the more I realize they don't sell through a whole lot of games.
Yeah.
Like, I see them stocked most of the time, and it's been... I do have to say that when Fire Emblem came out, I could not find that game anywhere. So
well, they don't send many Fire Emblems out anyways. I know it sounds crazy, but when I tried to get Fire Emblem Awakening on 3DS many years ago, I couldn't get a physical copy of it.
And you see also GameStop struggles to make money. And I remember times, like, I remember years ago whenever the Wii U came out, I went and got the Wii U in this store at midnight in the Georgia mountains because I was staying with some in-laws, like on a trip, and I really wanted the Wii U. So I was like, "Wife, can I leave y'all? I know we just got here today, but I got to go get this game system." Deuces. And so I drove down a mountain and got it at midnight. And apparently in this part of Georgia, nobody knows what the Wii U was. So they brought me to the back room, the loot area, I guess.
Where they hang up people and...
No. It was more like Smog for video games. Like,
God, precious.
So there were just piles of Halo, I think 4 or 5 at the time. 4. I mean, it's like they could have made... I don't know.
5's not out.
Yeah. It was one of the Halo games that were coming out around the same time as the Wii U.
Wait, is 5 out? I don't know. It's whatever.
I don't know.
It's the one that came out around then.
The big thing is they were essentially making fortresses out of Halo copies because they way over-ordered. And so I'm thinking that they're not keeping good tabs on their sales and how much they should purchase. Just kind of seeing these things, like being in back rooms of Walmarts and stuff, because if they lose a lot of money. Now, I don't know how many you can ship back to the seller, though.
Yeah.
That's a possibility, but if they're not keeping tabs on this, I mean, you're talking, thousands of Walmarts, and if each one's making a little loss, that means a big loss in the end. So, there is probably a slight bit of plausibility to this rumor that they would shut off all video game sales, but I don't see it.
Well, I used to work at a Walmart. And it's funny that you mentioned them not keeping tabs of what they sell. I used to work in the pets department, and the manager who ran the pets department was over ordering so much. So I could actually see that, but it's also funny that you mentioned Halo, because when Halo 2 came out umpteen million years ago,
way back in the day,
I had it pre-ordered at maybe like EB Games or something like that. And I remember going to stand in line for it, and it was awful. The line was backed up all the way down this little strip mall. Like, you couldn't even get in yet. It was ridiculous. So I went ahead and I forfeited the $5 and just drove back to my hometown, which was about 15, 20 minutes away from where I was. Walk into the Walmart at midnight, and they said, "You want what?"
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, yeah." I said, "You've probably got people already waiting on it." They're like, "No."
And that's how it is. You go into some places, they have no freaking clue.
Yeah, the Walmart has no clue
yeah.
when it comes to games.
So the next thing is that another rumor going around regarding this whole video games and violence related to the mass shootings that have been going on lately, that Walmart's getting rid of games. Well, why aren't they getting rid of the guns? And I keep seeing this pop up. So almost as a way to kind of explain it, I saw there's people complaining that, you can buy product A, B, and C. Well, why can you get guns here? And it's, I really think a concern that people don't think of, as somebody from a rural area, that is one of the actual biggest places in the U.S. for hunting and fishing. Walmart also makes a lot of money off of hunting sales, fishing sales. That's actually where you go to buy your hunting license in places like Texas, and your fishing license and things like that.
Yes, you have to have a license to do this.
You have to have it because that money goes to conservation efforts and other things.
Highways.
Yeah, I mean, I have some... Yeah, to me it's kind of silly that I got to have a license to go fish in my backyard, but I can kind of understand it. So I think some people don't realize that some of these places, if you don't have an academy or a gun store or something like that needs to buy guns for hunting or various other things for those kind of things, that you can't get them. And Walmart doesn't really sell typically a lot of things that people would consider assault rifles or anything like that. They mostly sell hunting equipment like Remington and stuff like that.
Yeah, like your shotguns, your deer rifles, air quotes.
So, generally that's going to be along the lines of why you would see that. If you agree or disagree with it or not, I'm not really necessarily trying to put this is right, they should do this or shouldn't do this, but that's kind of the reasoning why they would still sell that, because in rural areas where you wouldn't have access to these kind of hunting equipment and things like that, nobody would really get it, because you would have to drive like 50 to 100 miles to go to an academy to buy something. So we're going to go ahead and move on to the next thing. With video games, there have been some studies, is there a connection to video games and violence? One of the latest studies, Forbes had shared this not too long ago, that there's a study that was out in the UK. In it focused on video games connected to people following the ESRB and PEGI and all this other stuff, and focused on teenagers. Are you seeing more violence, more aggressive behavior in teenagers that play video games that are essentially following the ESRB standards or the PEGI standards or whatever the standards of that place?
Yeah.
And they're saying there is no bias. And it's a pretty good study. There's 2,000 or so people that they studied this from. It was fairly long term. And that's something you need to look for in scientific studies. What is the focus group? And, what you were saying when we talked about this, we probably talked about this for like our 45 minutes.
Our show prep was 2 hours this time around.
Yeah, because we were just like, oh my gosh, what are we going to say that does not start like a firestorm across the internet?
Yeah, well, like we were saying, basically, if you look at any kind of study, you have to see who funded the study. Mm-hmm. And you may even have to look up who funded the study. It may not be something right off the bat, but it may be, if you see one study that goes against what you say, look at where it came from. If you see one that goes with the way that you believe, you still need to look it up before you start sharing it, because this is how we get fake news.
Mm-hmm. And, that's a big thing. And generally, it's not hard to find studies that say what you want.
Oh, no, not at all.
It's not very hard to spend money, like Rowdy was saying, and get the results you want. So make sure you're kind of looking through, like, who is the end product of this study? Who is, who's the benefit from that study saying A, B, or C? Another thing is that in that study that they were saying that there are some concerns about desensitization. And that is a concern that I have voiced on this show before, that you should not have an 8-year-old playing Grand Theft Auto 5. You shouldn't have your 6-year-old, playing some sort of game where you're going in military, very realistic style and throwing grenades, and maybe their legs are falling off because their minds are not developed to deal with these kind of things yet. It is still traumatizing at those ages. So, follow the ESRB or PEGI or whatever you have, because at that point, if we're worried about a society of making people aggressive or desensitized, who's at fault at that point? Kids are, of course, always going to sneak things that they're not supposed to get. I understand that. But the parents should be checking out, what are you playing? Be engaged with them. Don't use that game as a babysitter, especially if it's connected to a service that has other video games on it, because you can have your kid tell you that they're going to play Angry Birds Racer 2 and then go straight to some crazy mess where they're chainsawing people in a heartbeat.
It's like every time you go into GameStop and you always see the underage kid with their parents getting Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah, I talked about that last time.
Always.
And they're like, Daddy, it's over here. It's like, oh my gosh, watch your games with your kids. And if you know that they're playing slightly violent games, either A, put it in perspective, or, have a discussion with the kid. Because I do remember being a teenager, and I played games like Mortal Kombat.
I had a buddy of mine.
So I can't say I'm completely,
I had a buddy of mine who, when Grand Theft Auto 3 was actually a fairly big game, his son played it a lot. Now, his son was, 6, 7 at the time. And we, kept telling him, your son probably shouldn't play that game. I mean, it got to the point where he knew the cheat codes and everything back when you could put the cheat codes in Grand Theft Auto.
Cheat codes?
Well, then we come over one day. His son's playing a completely different game. We're like, what happened? He's like, I had to stop letting him play Grand Theft Auto because it, kind of brought over into his real life. Like, he wanted to start kicking things and knocking them over. He was saying things from Grand Theft Auto. He's like, so I got him another Rockstar racing game. So at a young age, you do get desensitized for that kind of stuff.
Now, kind of going into the all sides of this too, there is some historical applications for things that are fairly dark that kids see, but usually they're presented in a way that is easier to digest in a sense. Because, kids do deal with some pretty heavy things, and kids generally are resilient. Mm-hmm. Now, if you look historically, you can look at fairy tales. Now, what we think of fairy tales is not exactly Cinderella and the Glass Slipper. Old school grim fairy tales were grim. They were dark. They were bloody. There were terrible things.
They used to cook kids in ovens.
Yeah, in the way they were presented sometimes were almost a way to sometimes scare kids into being a better person. Usually there was some sort of fable that went along with it.
Like Krampus.
Yeah, well, that's more of a weird religious thing, huh?
No.
Oh, I thought that was based on some pagan religion.
No, it's a European kind of thing. They teach kids that Santa's good, Krampus is bad. If you're good, Santa will visit. If you're bad, Krampus will visit.
That's scary. Anyway, so also nursery rhymes were used as a coping mechanism that meant really dark stuff. So if you remember this one, Ring Around the Rosies, Pocket Full of Posies, Ashes, Ashes, We All Fall Down. So this is based off the plague. Mm-hmm. And it was a way to kind of teach kids the things to watch out for, too. Now, in our society, I remember playing this as a kid, and there was nothing really attached to this. But Ring Around the Rosies is essentially like little red marks that would show up on your arm. Pocket Full of Posies would be the flowers that either a doctor or somebody would put in pockets because of the smell of death or the rotting flesh. Ashes, Ashes, they would burn the bodies. Isn't that what it was?
Yep.
Then We All Fall Down is when they all die.
Yep.
So it's kind of a scary thing to think about that you're introducing these topics to a kid. But once again, put in a way that is able to be digested in a sense, and you have to explain the context of it. And that's kind of what I wanted to get across was, there's a lot of room for debate on this, and we're not going to have all the answers right here as much as we'd like to in this. it's really a tough thing to talk about because I know that was one big thing we discussed on this beforehand. We do try to keep politics out of this show for the most part.
Yes.
They are going to come into video games. We all know this. It's all intertangled. But, I guess, what thing... You had summed it up better. I think I made it wordier. But, if you want to go ahead and kind of give that last bit.
Yeah, look, I was just trying to find a way to, make people realize, like, video games are for fun. And if you want to discuss something with somebody, like, keep it simple. So basically, we just got to remember that we're all humans, okay? All of us. Just if you try to talk or discuss anything with another person, there is another person on the other side of that phone, on the other side of that computer, okay? And it's okay to disagree with anybody. It's okay to debate, but you got to leave the hate and malice out of it. People were raised different. They have, different views on things. Me and Travis see things a lot different from each other, and we were raised in the same area.
Yep.
But just if there's one thing we can ask, it's just be nice and don't harm one another. I mean, just one reason I came up with the idea for this podcast was literally because of how people told me it was lame to play video games at my age. I mean, literally, I would be picked on at work as a 30-year-old man. Picked on at work for playing video games because I didn't watch football in my spare time or do what was popular. So just remember, if you're mean and hateful to the other people, the only thing you're doing is alienating the people that could be a friend, an online acquaintance, somebody that you could play games with. You could turn somebody away from video games for gatekeeping it, for being mean and hateful. So just remember, don't do that. Be nice to each other. I think it was Bill and Ted that said be righteous. Be righteous to each other, maybe.
Be righteous, dudes. Something like that.
Yeah, man. Like, just remember, just don't hurt anybody, okay? Like, don't do it.
And, another thing I think to keep in mind, too, is that anger, anything you give out to somebody or yell at somebody, it's going to transfer from that person. You're going to cause stress, you're going to cause anxiety, and that has to have an outlet somewhere. If you are being angry or belligerent or violent towards somebody else, they're going to take those things that you're doing and usually move them down the line. And that hurts other people in the end. So, I guess that's really all I got to say. Yeah. Be nice to each other.
We hate to end it on such a downer, but I mean, we do like to get our message across of just be good to everybody. We're all here to play video games.
Have fun.
Exactly. That's what they were made for.
Yep. All right, guys. I think that is it for this show. I think we're out.
Yeah, we're out. You guys have a good day.